Welcome. Welcome back to The Sovereign Way. We are in a season of vibrational immersion. We have been through a landscape already this year here in the Oasis and in the wider Sovereign Way movement. We've been exploring what it is to truly be present in an electromagnetic field of beauty, lightness, and allowing. We've explored what happens vibrationally when we learn to truly be present with the omnipresence of life force, and therefore being in true engagement with mana, learning how to steward that energy. And we've grounded ourselves into our core values and really learned what it is that is most important to us and how to choose out from that field. And so that means that we've arrived at a point in consciousness and in vibration where it's really safe to kind of be in the outpouring of the devotion that follows next. My name is Elizabeth and I'm your tour guide. The words and the vibration inside this teaching belong to God, and your only job is to receive whatever the medicine is that He's chosen specifically for you. And you can also watch these teachings again and again and get something new every single time. So don't worry about hurrying up to remember everything. Right? So just relax and enjoy. So when love is free, it expresses as devotion. So your personal authority in Christ lies in how much you love. So devotion, therefore, is not about what you are doing, but who is doing it. That's where we start. So we're going to spend some time over the next few weeks really strengthening this muscle to love more and with a more cohesive energy and grounded biofield, so that our discipleship is anchored in reality for deep impact in our mission. So let's begin this experience with a mental device to help us think love. And that device is Hylozoism. Type it in the comments. Hylozoism. Now, Hylozoism is a theory that no so-called inorganic matter anywhere in the universe exists. There is no such thing as inorganic matter. All forms are built up of infinitesimal lives, which in their totality, great or small, constitute life. And if we agree that all things derive from same source and are of the same spirit and the same substance, then all things are consciousness, love, and life. And thus, eventually, then, we have that great scale of lives manifesting in greater and greater expression, dimension, reaching all the way from the tiny life called the atom up to that vast atomic life that we call the solar system, beyond into the greater neural network of galactic interconnection, and all the way to the very heart of God. Everything is alive. This morning, my lovely husband saw me coming out onto the back porch wearing my pretty yellow dress, and he said, "Oh, lucky dress molecules." I found that super funny. Everything is alive. The stitching in your fabric. This is Genesis 1:31. Then God saw everything He had made, and indeed it was very good. I remember having an intuitive understanding of this when I was a little girl, that all forms are a field of consciousness and that there is only life and more life. And so perhaps sentience just happens to be a mysterious and sacred game that we play at this level of life, right? That rocks are not as sentient as slugs. Slugs are not as sentient as apes. Apes are not as sentient as Homo sapiens. And the Homo sapiens is not as conscious as Homo noeticus. So this ascension of sentience is a byproduct of life, not the only indicator of life. For the spirit of life is omnipresent. Now, for me personally, this gives me a great respect and reverence for all things. And that helps me slow down and notice the vibrancy and aliveness that's everywhere, which I need. Because even though I'm alive, am I in life? My children can be growing up without me, even though I'm there doing all the right things. And if I'm stuck in my Excelsior I am consciousness, thinking about myself all the time, my worries, my goals, my mission, my calling, my ascension, my wounds, my concerns, then my children aren't happening for me. And I'm not happening for them. I'm not in the marvel of the abundance of life unfolding amidst it all. Are you being with your children? And I need to remember that Jesus didn't come to save us from the human story. He didn't come to burst us into this ascended race of celestial 15th dimensional beings with no problems at all. He came precisely to be with us in the human story, to be together, to travel together, to laugh and cry together, to play and create together, to plow the fields and to harvest together, to grow old or to die young having lived. Because everything is alive. This is where life is. So Hylozoism, our device for this series, is that everything is imbued with the spirit of life. Now, call me nuts, but I have no doubt that my house has become alive. I'm serious, it's utterly enchanted. It responds to my family's energy. It changes its behavior. It responds to us like it's part of the family. Is there anyone else who lives in a magical house where the structure of the house has come alive with the essence of the home? If so, type it in. My house is alive. My house is alive. Because structure comes alive with essence. Hylozoism. Now, I first learned about this when I'd been training with an Episcopal mentor on the path to priesthood when I was living in Colorado. Now, as a side note, for those of you, or for those of us in the Abrahamic lineage, know that the Abrahamic lineage, of which Christianity and Judaism and Islam are all children, we are the wisdom keepers of the law of one. So we can be quite cerebral in our devotion. If you're in this lineage, you're probably spending a lot of time thinking and studying and questioning and analyzing and organizing how to think about God. And that's okay. But it can sometimes be hard to get into the body of it all. But my Episcopal mentor, Reverend Nancy Malloy, she would light up like a light every time she saw you, like you were the most beloved child in the whole universe. When you showed up on the Sunday in the little gardens, the little allotments outside this little wooden church called St. Lawrence in Conifer in Colorado, you'd show up on a Sunday and she'd make eye contact with you and she would come alive with the spirit. like you are the most beloved child in the whole universe. She loved so freely. And I had to end my apprenticeship with her when God sent my family out into the desert to live in a tent. And the woman who owned the land there was a pagan priestess, a woman of the wild, a weaver of slow magic and long devotion. As just a little side note about learning with the master, me personally, even though I'm very cerebral, I'm not a very good book learner. I grow best in a master-student dynamic when I let God bring me to my next teacher and I work with them directly to absorb everything that they have to teach me. And then it lands in my bones and it becomes part of who I am. And then my life and my authority upgrades, and that's how I do my up-leveling, through spiritual apprenticeship. So I make agreements with the field of consciousness of that master. I soak up the vibration of what that master is. I make sense of it. I synthesize it in mind, and then I practice it. That's my process. So for those of you who think that lineage and teaching is old school, I say that it is eternal. So there I am, living in the wild with a new master, a pagan priestess. And I'm living in the elements. I'm surrounded by lavender and sagebrush. And I'm underneath the Milky Way blanket up above, which I can see so clearly because it is so dark. And in the most acutely vulnerable and helpless time in my life, in our family, with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, we have to walk very mindfully along the path so that we don't step on the sharp stones or the cactus. To shower naked on the mountainside under a solar-heated water bag with hundreds of miles of mountain view, listening in case a bear comes. All of nature came alive for us. And you become so aware of the richness of dimensionality when you know the bee whizzing along in a high-speed ultraviolet universe. When you know the snake who sees in infrared, knowing reality as a field of heat and taste. And now the bat, an entirely somatic awareness, knowing yourself as a visceral expression of echolocation in a vibrational universe. What could the life of a rock possibly be? That's an event horizon we do not know, but it is alive. So there we were, out there in the wild, in the danger, in the acute vulnerability of elemental sovereignty, if you like. Our bedtime routine involves becoming safe from the elements. So we're brushing our teeth in the ice, in the snow melt. We're brushing our teeth outside. We're going to the toilet. We're getting ourselves sorted out, all outside. Big, long, complicated process of doing in the world. And we finally have the children all tucked up in bed in this little tent where we live. And everyone is snuggled up. And then the rain starts. Comes the rain. And that's when Penelope says, "Mummy, I need a poo." So out of the beds we go, put the boots on, put the little headlamps on, zip out into the rain, mindfully up the path so we don't step on the stones or the cactus, lighting our way or not lighting the way, all the way up to that ledge that Matt had made with that pickaxe, surrounded by this lovely wicker willow that he'd actually harvested from the side of the river. And that's where the bucket is with the bucket from Home Depot, with a little toilet seat that you put on top. So put the baby on the bucket, then listen for the bears. Watch for the lightning. Extremely present. Trusting God. She sits on the bucket, humming for a really long time. And the rain is coming, and now I think I start to see some flashes in the distance. Hurry up, sweetheart. Have you finished your poo? And she looks at me happily and says, oh, mummy, I didn't need a real poo. I needed an imaginary poo. Ah, lovely child, lovely child. There we are in the rain, in the acute presence and respect for all the elements in which you are constantly swimming. Hylozoism. And you get to knowing that when all the elements are alive and I am alive, then I can trust that those elements respond to my vibration, harmlessness, benevolence, and harmony, and they can hold me safe in nature. I am not afraid of the mountain lion. I am not afraid of the lightning. I respect his power in his place here in the Colorado mountains, and he knows who I am. God is all of it, and he moves me. So I am safe because I am aware. Now, one good way to practice this holy communion with Christ in all and as all is to begin communicating with God, engaging with God through the elements, so that he's no longer a distant theological concept or a vast metaphysical mechanism, but immediately present as the fabric of life itself. Bless your water, your living water, before you drink it. Good water. You thank your living coffee cup for holding that sweet elixir. You spend 5 minutes in your morning devotion simply observing everything and knowing this too is the body of God. Imagine how intimate your breath is if the very molecules of air are alive. And you may soon find that aliveness comes alive and that all things begin to support you as benevolent allies when their vibrational fields respond to your love. This is Jeremiah 23:23. I just realized 23:23. I've had a real season of 2s and 3s. I just realized, here we are again, Jeremiah 23:23. I am a God who is everywhere and not in one place only. No one can hide where I cannot see them. Do you not know that I am everywhere in heaven and on earth? Jeremiah 23:23. And so in my humility then, because that brings me personally into humility in my belonging in that allness, now I remember that I'm not a rigid lighthouse, super high vibing spiritual being beaming my light out for everyone to put up with. I am a droplet in the ocean of love, always entangled with every part of it, always communing with every one, pleasure and pain, victory and defeat, high vibing ascension and the lowly and lost, And to be in true devotion is to be in relation with it all. That is to be Christ. So I need to practice recognizing the innocence in another. I need to practice recognizing the little baby that they once were, that little toddler giggling in a moment of pure delight when daddy pulls a funny face. Because the world is not just a reflection of my inner self. It isn't just a hologram of energetic cause and effect. It isn't just a quantum matrix. If you're seeing a reflection of yourself, you're still looking at the surface. Narcissus became so enamored with the reflection on the surface, with that extraordinary miracle that he was looking at on the surface, so much that he rejected the invitations of love from real life around him because he was fixed on his own reflection. You may see yourself in the reflection on the surface of the world, but the water is so much deeper. This is the body of God that you are peering into. And God is peering back through the eyes of everyone you meet. Love seeking itself, communing with itself. So for true devotion, and devotion, by the way, is the only thing that calls you into true spiritual life, bringing you out of the boundaries of who you are, bringing you out of your I am excelsior consciousness and into that belonging, into Emmanuel, God with us. For that kind of devotion, you must integrate your knowing that I am a sovereign co-creator of my experience, seeing reflections of myself in the manifest world, and also I am inside a relational, conscious energy body, and it's not all about me, because everything is alive. Hylozoism. So this rock, handy, I happen to have one, this rock is alive, but not as conscious as a slug. And the slug is alive, but not as conscious as an ape. And the ape is alive, but not as conscious as the Homo sapiens. And the Homo sapiens is alive and is not as conscious as Homo noeticus. Ascending awareness. Everything is the body of Christ. Have deep respect for everything. This is John, chapter 1, verse 1. Isn't that a lovely spit? Here it comes. John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created through him, and apart from him, not one thing was created that has been created. Life was in him, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Ellipses. The true light that gives light to everyone is coming into the world. Hylozoism. Thank you for joining us today. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and get in touch with us if you'd like to be part of the Sovereign Way movement. Now let's close the live stream, and then let's open the table here in the Oasis. Let's feast together. Amen.